Faith is not merely a passive state of belief. It is an active engagement with the world, a mode of being that aligns our actions, thoughts, and emotions with a transcendent order. It is not simply about saying, "I believe in something greater." That is too shallow. It is about embodying that belief in every facet of life. Faith is a structure upon which the complexities of existence can be navigated. And when properly understood, it becomes the very key that unlocks the deeper promises of life itself. But faith is difficult. It is not the naive hope that things will turn out the way we wish them to. It is not blind optimism or some simplistic notion that if we just believe hard enough, good things will happen. Faith is a discipline. It is an orientation toward the highest possible good, even in the presence of immense suffering and chaos. It demands action, courage, and resilience. Without it, we flounder in uncertainty, easily swayed by transient emotions and the unpredictability of life. Now, the idea that faith is a prerequisite for receiving something greater than ourselves is an ancient one. It appears across cultures, traditions, and religious frameworks. The structure remains remarkably consistent. Faith aligns an individual with a higher order, making them capable of perceiving and receiving blessings that would otherwise remain inaccessible. This is not superstition. It is a psychological and even existential reality. Those who move through the world without faith, without a sense of the transcendent, often find themselves adrift. They lack direction, unable to maintain stability in the face of adversity. Why is that? Because faith structures perception. It determines how we see the world, what we notice, what we prioritize, and most importantly, what we pursue. If you believe that life is meaningless, your behavior will reflect that belief. You will act in ways that are impulsive, short-sighted, and self-destructive. But if you believe that there is a deeper order, a pattern of meaning woven into the fabric of existence, then your actions will take on a very different quality. You will move with purpose, endure suffering with resilience, and make sacrifices today for a better tomorrow. And this is precisely why faith is necessary for accessing the deeper blessings that life has to offer. Without faith, one cannot recognize those blessings even when they arrive. It is faith that allows an individual to perceive opportunity where others see misfortune. It is faith that turns obstacles into growth, despair into hope, and suffering into meaning. To live without faith is to close oneself off to all that is possible, to shrink one's vision to the immediate and the temporary, rather than expanding it toward the eternal and the profound. Consider what happens when someone lacks faith. They become cynical, distrustful, and anxious. They do not believe that good things are possible for them, so they do not act in ways that invite good things into their lives. They sabotage opportunities because they assume failure is inevitable. They isolate themselves from relationships that could bring joy and fulfillment because they do not trust that love is real. In short, they become trapped in a self-fulfilling cycle of negativity, unable to receive what is already available to them. Now contrast that with someone who has faith. Not blind faith. They do not ignore suffering or pretend that life is easy. Quite the opposite. They acknowledge the darkness but choose to walk toward the light. They persist through challenges because they trust that perseverance leads to reward. They take risks because they believe that growth is on the other side of discomfort. And crucially, they remain open to the possibility that something greater than themselves is at work, shaping events in ways they may not yet understand. This is not simply a theoretical concept, it is observable. Those who carry faith, whether in themselves, in a higher power, or in the fundamental goodness of existence, live differently than those who do not. They endure hardship with greater fortitude. They see meaning in their struggles. They extend generosity even when it is not immediately reciprocated. And as a result, they attract abundance. Not necessarily in the material sense, though that can happen, but in a far deeper, more profound way. They cultivate richness in their relationships, depth in their understanding, and peace in their hearts. But faith is not something that comes automatically. It must be cultivated, nurtured, and protected. It requires discipline and constant renewal. It must be practiced in both the best of times and the worst. It must be tested, challenged, and reaffirmed. And that is where many people falter. They hold on to faith only when things are going well, but abandon it at the first sign of trouble. This is not faith, it is convenience. True faith persists beyond circumstances. It remains steadfast even when the world seems to be crumbling. This is the paradox of faith. It is most necessary when it is most difficult. It is easy to have faith when everything is going according to plan. But faith truly matters when the plan falls apart. It is in those moments when doubt creeps in, when fear threatens to take over, that faith becomes the key to unlocking something greater. Because if you hold on to faith in the darkest of times, you will find that something remarkable happens. You do not just survive, you grow. You do not just endure, you transcend. And in that process, you become someone capable of receiving blessings that you never could have imagined. So the real question is this: are you willing to cultivate the kind of faith that unlocks the greater potential of your life? Not a shallow, convenient faith, but a real, disciplined, tested faith. Because if you are, then you will find that the promises you have been waiting for were never out of reach. They were simply waiting for you to become the kind of person who could receive them. Life is structured in a way that demands sacrifice. There is no escaping this fundamental truth. Everything of value requires something in return. If you want to be physically strong, you must endure the discomfort of training. If you want to be wise, you must sacrifice your time and energy in the pursuit of knowledge. If you want to build deep, meaningful relationships, you must make yourself vulnerable, risk rejection, and invest emotionally. Nothing worth having is freely given, at least not in any lasting or meaningful sense. This idea of sacrifice is woven into the fabric of existence. It is not just a human invention, it is a principle embedded in nature itself. A seed must be buried in the darkness of the earth before it can grow into a tree. A caterpillar must give up its form entirely before it can become a butterfly. In the same way, if you wish to unlock something greater in your life, if you wish to step into the future that is waiting for you, you must give something up. But here is where people struggle. They want the rewards without the sacrifice. They want the benefits of discipline without the effort, the rewards of patience without the waiting, and the security of faith without the uncertainty that comes with it. They want to receive without giving. And this is precisely why so many people remain stuck. They do not understand that sacrifice is not simply an unfortunate necessity, it is the key to transformation. Consider this. You have a particular vision of your life, an idea of what is possible, of what you could be if only certain things were to fall into place. Maybe it is a more fulfilling career, a stronger sense of purpose, healthier relationships, or a deeper spiritual connection. But ask yourself this: what are you willing to give up in order to attain that? Because if your answer is nothing, then you will remain exactly where you are. People often deceive themselves into thinking that they can hold on to everything they have while still reaching for something greater. But that is not how transformation works. There is always a cost. You cannot grow while staying the same. You cannot step into a new future while clinging to the habits, attitudes, and fears that define your present. If you want something different, you must be willing to change. Now, this does not mean you have to give up everything at once. That would be reckless. But it does mean that you must identify what is standing in your way and systematically remove it. Maybe it is an addiction to distraction, a refusal to take responsibility, or an attachment to old wounds that you refuse to heal. Whatever it is, you must be willing to let it go. Because until you do, you will remain trapped, not by the limitations of the world, but by the limitations you have placed upon yourself. And this is what makes sacrifice so powerful. It is not just about loss, it is about exchange. When you sacrifice something of lesser value, you make room for something greater. You trade short-term comfort for long-term fulfillment. You trade complacency for growth. You trade fear for courage. This is why sacrifice is not simply about suffering, it is about transformation. But sacrifice is painful. It requires faith because it demands that you let go of something before you can see the reward. This is why so many people hesitate. They cling to what is familiar, even when it no longer serves them, because at least they understand it. The unknown is terrifying. The idea of stepping into something new, of giving up what is comfortable, even if it is also painful, is deeply unsettling. But that is the test. If you can endure that discomfort, if you can trust that something greater is possible, then you will find that what you receive in return is always more valuable than what you gave up. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the way you expected, but over time, in ways you cannot yet predict, you will see that the sacrifices you made were not losses at all, they were investments. And this applies to every area of life. If you want better relationships, you must sacrifice selfishness. If you want wisdom, you must sacrifice ignorance. If you want to be strong, you must sacrifice weakness. There is always a trade-off. And those who understand this principle, those who learn to embrace sacrifice rather than resist it, are the ones who unlock the true potential of their lives. So the real question is this: what are you holding on to that is keeping you from moving forward? What is standing between you and the future that is waiting for you? Because if you are willing to make the necessary sacrifices, if you are willing to step into the unknown and trust that there is something greater ahead, then you will find that the rewards are far beyond anything you could have imagined. The choice is yours. Will you stay where you are, clinging to what is familiar, or will you let go, step forward, and unlock the blessings that are waiting for you? Life is built upon principles, and one of the most foundational principles governing our existence is responsibility. People often seek meaning, fulfillment, and blessings, but they overlook the necessary precursor to these things: responsibility. You do not receive the full measure of what life has to offer unless you are first willing to bear the weight of responsibility. And this applies to every aspect of life: your relationships, your work, your character, and even your spiritual development. But responsibility is difficult. It is heavy. It demands sacrifice, effort, and discipline. And because of this, people often seek ways to avoid it. They rationalize their avoidance through excuses, blaming their circumstances, upbringing, or external forces beyond their control. They tell themselves they are victims of fate, powerless to change their situation. But this is not true. The truth is that taking responsibility, truly shouldering the burden of your own life, is the path to unlocking the blessings that are available to you. Consider this: if you are waiting for something to change in your life, whether it be an opportunity, a relationship, or even a spiritual breakthrough, the question you should be asking is not, when will this happen? But rather, what am I doing to prepare myself for it? Because if you are not taking responsibility for your own development, for your own improvement, then even if the opportunity were to present itself, you would not be ready to receive it. This is one of the great tragedies of human existence. People pray for things they are not prepared for. They ask for blessings they have done nothing to earn. They wish for success without discipline, for wisdom without study, for deep relationships without vulnerability. They hope that good things will come to them while putting in none of the effort required to make those things possible. And then they wonder why life does not unfold the way they expected. But this is not how reality works. The universe does not reward passivity. It rewards action. It rewards responsibility. It rewards those who are willing to confront the chaos of existence head on, to take charge of their own lives, and to do the difficult, painful work required to become more than they were yesterday. Now you may ask, where do I begin? And the answer is simple. You begin with what is in front of you. You do not need to solve all of life's problems at once. That is impossible. But you can take responsibility for the things that are within your control. You can clean your room, organize your thoughts, and make better decisions about how you spend your time. You can commit to honesty, integrity, and discipline in small ways before expecting to master them in large ones. And this is crucial, because if you cannot take responsibility for the small things, you will never be able to handle the big things. People dream of great achievements, of wealth, influence, and deep personal fulfillment, yet they cannot even manage their daily affairs. They seek to change the world, yet they refuse to change themselves. And this is why they remain stuck. The reality is this: if you take responsibility for what is in front of you, more opportunities will come. The better you handle small challenges, the greater challenges you will be entrusted with. Life expands in proportion to your willingness to carry the burdens placed upon you. And as you learn to bear more responsibility, you will find that you are also unlocking more blessings. Because blessings are not arbitrary gifts handed out at random. They are the natural consequences of living in alignment with truth. When you become someone who is reliable, disciplined, and capable, the world responds to that. People trust you. Opportunities seek you out. You become someone who is worthy of greater things because you have proven that you can handle them. And here is the paradox. Responsibility is difficult, but it is also liberating. People think that freedom comes from the absence of obligation, but this is not true. Real freedom comes from the mastery of self, from knowing that you have the ability to take charge of your life rather than being at the mercy of circumstance. Responsibility is not a burden. It is the very thing that allows you to stand tall, to have confidence, to navigate the complexities of life without fear. So if you are waiting for blessings, if you are hoping for something greater, stop waiting and start preparing. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What responsibilities have I neglected? Where have I failed to take ownership of my own life? Because once you answer these questions honestly, once you begin to confront the things you have ignored, you will find that the very act of taking responsibility is what opens the doors you have been waiting for. You are capable of far more than you imagine, but the path forward is not easy. It is not comfortable. It requires sacrifice, discipline, and effort, but it is worth it. Because on the other side of responsibility, on the other side of effort and perseverance, is the kind of life that is truly worth living. And the choice is yours. Will you take up that responsibility, or will you continue to wait, hoping that things will change on their own? The answer to that question will determine everything. Life is structured around order and chaos, and navigating between the two is an unavoidable aspect of human existence. On the one hand, order provides stability. It is the foundation upon which we build our lives, create routines, and establish meaning. On the other hand, chaos represents the unknown, the unpredictable, the potential for growth, but also for destruction. The interplay between these two forces determines the trajectory of our lives, and the way we engage with them directly impacts the blessings we can receive. Many people live in fear of chaos, unwilling to step beyond the bounds of what is comfortable and familiar. They construct a rigid framework around their lives, unwilling to confront the unknown, unwilling to take risks, unwilling to engage with anything that might disrupt their carefully curated sense of order. But there is a fundamental problem with this approach. Life itself is dynamic, ever-changing, and no structure, no matter how well designed, can remain stable forever. If you refuse to engage with the unknown, you are not protecting yourself, you are making yourself fragile. Others lean too far in the opposite direction, embracing chaos without any attempt to structure it. They reject discipline, they reject responsibility, they avoid commitments, and they wander through life aimlessly, convincing themselves that they are free. But freedom without structure is not freedom at all. It is simply a descent into disorder. Without a foundation, without principles to guide you, without discipline to direct your actions, you do not become more capable, you become lost. This is where the concept of blessings becomes relevant, because blessings, in their truest form, are not simply rewards handed down arbitrarily. They are the natural consequence of aligning your life properly, of finding the balance between order and chaos. When you structure your life around discipline, responsibility, and integrity, you create the foundation necessary to withstand the unpredictability of existence. You become someone capable of weathering life's storms, and in doing so, you open yourself up to greater opportunities, deeper relationships, and a more profound sense of meaning. The problem is that most people want blessings without the burden. They want wisdom without the struggle of acquiring it. They want success without the sacrifice required to achieve it. They want deep, fulfilling relationships without the vulnerability and commitment those relationships demand. And this is where they go wrong, because every blessing comes with a corresponding responsibility. If you receive something valuable but are not prepared to handle it, you will inevitably squander it. If you are given an opportunity but lack the discipline to make use of it, that opportunity will be wasted. If you seek meaning but refuse to engage with the challenges that make life meaningful, you will find yourself perpetually dissatisfied. Consider the example of knowledge. Knowledge is a blessing, but it is also a burden, because once you know something, you cannot unknow it. Once you see the truth, you are responsible for what you do with it. Many people avoid knowledge because they do not want the responsibility that comes with it. They choose ignorance because it is easier. But ignorance does not protect you, it simply leaves you unprepared. Or consider wealth. Wealth, when used properly, can be a tremendous force for good. It can provide security, opportunity, and the ability to help others. But if wealth is acquired without the wisdom to manage it, it becomes a curse rather than a blessing. It corrupts rather than uplifts. It creates dependencies rather than independence. The same principle applies to power, to influence, to relationships. Everything of value requires responsibility. And this is why so many people struggle to receive the blessings they desire. They are waiting for something external to change, when what needs to change is internal. They are waiting for success while avoiding the effort required to build it. They are waiting for love while refusing to become the kind of person capable of sustaining a deep relationship. They are waiting for meaning while avoiding the responsibility that gives life purpose. But here is the truth. You do not receive blessings by wishing for them. You receive them by preparing yourself for them. You receive them by becoming someone capable of handling them. And this means embracing the necessary struggle. It means taking on the burdens that come with responsibility. It means confronting the chaos of life, not with fear, but with the discipline required to bring order to it. The path forward is not easy, but it is necessary. If you want your life to improve, you must improve. If you want more opportunities, you must become someone who is prepared to take advantage of them. If you want meaning, you must be willing to sacrifice comfort and security in pursuit of something greater. So ask yourself, are you avoiding the very responsibilities that would lead to the blessings you desire? Are you waiting for life to change without taking the necessary steps to change yourself? Because if you are, then you must confront that reality head on. You must take ownership of your own development, your own discipline, your own integrity. And once you do, you will find that the blessings you have been waiting for are not something distant, not something external, but something that emerges naturally from the choices you make every day. The world opens its doors to those who are prepared to walk through them. The question is, are you ready? Human beings have an innate tendency to seek immediate gratification. It is one of the primary struggles that define our existence, the choice between what is expedient and what is meaningful. Too often, people prioritize short-term pleasure over long-term fulfillment. They want to receive rewards without effort, to reap benefits without sowing the necessary seeds. But life does not work that way. The most profound rewards, the deepest blessings, do not come to those who passively wait for them. They come to those who engage with the world in a meaningful, disciplined manner, who take responsibility for their actions, who embrace sacrifice, and who strive towards something greater than themselves. A person who expects blessings without effort is fundamentally misunderstanding how the world operates. Life is structured in such a way that rewards are proportional to the investment made. If you want a strong body, you must exercise. If you want wisdom, you must engage with difficult ideas. If you want success, you must be willing to struggle, to fail, to persevere. And yet, many people shy away from this reality. They avoid hardship, they avoid responsibility. They hope for something better while refusing to engage in the very behaviors that would lead to that outcome. This is a catastrophic mistake, because the truth is that the process itself The struggle, the discipline, the sacrifice is what makes the reward meaningful. If you were simply handed everything you desired without effort, it would mean nothing to you. The value of a thing is proportional to the price paid for it. This is evident in every domain of life. A relationship that requires effort, commitment, and sacrifice is far more valuable than a fleeting interaction based on convenience. A career that demands skill, perseverance, and discipline is far more meaningful than a job obtained effortlessly. Even something as simple as a meal is more satisfying when it follows a day of hard work. But modern culture, in many ways, encourages the opposite mindset. It promotes the idea that people should be rewarded simply for existing, that they are entitled to happiness, to success, to fulfillment without any corresponding effort. This is a dangerous illusion, because when you convince people that they deserve something without earning it, you rob them of the opportunity to develop the very virtues that would make them capable of handling those rewards. A person who is given power without responsibility becomes corrupt. A person who is given wealth without discipline becomes wasteful. A person who is given recognition without merit becomes arrogant. This is why shortcuts are so dangerous. They do not truly lead to what people think they want. They create an illusion of success without any of the internal transformation required to sustain it. And when that illusion inevitably collapses, the individual is left worse off than before, because they have not developed the resilience, the competence, or the strength required to build something real. So what does this mean in practical terms? It means that if you want to receive true blessings, you must first become someone capable of handling them. You must cultivate discipline. You must embrace responsibility. You must be willing to do the hard work required to create a meaningful life. This is not a popular message. People do not want to hear that they must suffer in order to grow. But there is no way around it. Growth is painful. Strength is forged in struggle. The person you are today is a direct result of the challenges you have faced and the way you have responded to them. And so, if you find yourself waiting for something, if you are hoping for success, for happiness, for meaning, ask yourself, are you waiting for life to hand it to you, or are you actively working towards it? Because if you are waiting, you are making a mistake. Life does not simply give, it demands effort in return. If you want love, you must become someone capable of giving love. If you want purpose, you must be willing to sacrifice what is easy in pursuit of what is meaningful. If you want success, you must develop competence, resilience, and discipline. The tragedy is that many people are unwilling to do this. They want an easier path, a shortcut, a way to bypass the necessary struggle. But every great story, every meaningful achievement, every truly fulfilled person has gone through hardship. They have suffered, they have sacrificed, and in doing so, they have transformed themselves into individuals capable of bearing the weight of responsibility. The reality is that the world is a challenging place. It is full of obstacles, of suffering, of unpredictability, but that does not mean it is without meaning. In fact, it is precisely because life is difficult that it is meaningful. The act of struggling against adversity, of persevering despite difficulty, of forging order out of chaos, that is what makes life worth living. So do not wait for blessings. Do not expect them to be handed to you. Instead, become someone capable of earning them. And in doing so, you will find that the very process of striving towards something greater transforms you into the kind of person who can handle whatever life throws your way. The greatest rewards are not given to those who seek comfort, but to those who seek meaning. And meaning is found in responsibility, in discipline, in sacrifice. The choice is yours. Will you take up that burden? Will you embrace the struggle? If you do, you will find that what you were waiting for was never external. It was always about who you were becoming. People often underestimate the power of gratitude and its role in shaping a meaningful life. Gratitude is not merely a polite social convention. It is a psychological and moral framework that fundamentally changes the way we perceive and interact with the world. It is easy to dismiss gratitude as a passive, feel-good emotion, but that is an oversimplification. Gratitude is, in fact, a disciplined practice, one that requires constant effort and conscious attention. Without it, life can quickly become dominated by resentment, entitlement, and bitterness. At its core, gratitude is a recognition of what is valuable. It is the ability to see that despite suffering and imperfection, existence itself is a gift. This is not a naive or sentimental perspective. It is a brutally pragmatic one. The alternative to gratitude is despair, because if you cannot recognize what is good, you will only see what is lacking. This is a dangerous state of mind. It fosters resentment, which in turn breeds nihilism and self-destruction. People who lack gratitude see themselves as perpetual victims of an unjust world. They focus only on what they have not been given rather than what they already possess. Entitlement is the opposite of gratitude. When a person believes they are owed something by the universe, they lose their ability to appreciate what they already have. Entitlement is a form of blindness. It prevents people from seeing the sacrifices others have made for them, the opportunities they have been given, and the sheer miracle of their own existence. It convinces them that nothing is ever enough, that they are always being wronged, and that the world owes them happiness. This is a catastrophic mindset because it leads to bitterness, passivity, and ultimately self-destruction. Gratitude, on the other hand, is an active orientation towards life. It is the willingness to see that even in the midst of suffering, there is something to be thankful for. It is the conscious effort to recognize beauty, kindness, and opportunity, even when they are overshadowed by hardship. And crucially, gratitude is not just about thought, it is about action. If you are truly grateful for something, you will act accordingly. If you are grateful for your health, you will take care of your body. If you are grateful for your relationships, you will nurture them. If you are grateful for knowledge, you will seek to expand it. Gratitude without action is mere sentimentality. True gratitude demands responsibility. This is a difficult lesson for many people to accept because it requires them to abandon their sense of victimhood. It demands that they take responsibility for their own perceptions and behaviors. It forces them to acknowledge that they have far more power over their lives than they would like to admit. And power is terrifying because it means that failure is not merely the result of external forces. It is, at least in part, the consequence of personal choices. Gratitude, then, is not just a personal virtue. It is a necessity for a well-functioning society. A society that fosters gratitude produces individuals who are responsible, resilient, and generous. A society that fosters entitlement, on the other hand, breeds resentment, division, and moral decay. When people lose their sense of gratitude, they turn against each other. They begin to see everything as a zero-sum game, where another person's success is automatically their failure. They lose the ability to cooperate, to build, to create, because they are too consumed with what they believe they deserve. The solution to this is simple, but not easy. It requires a daily practice of recognizing what is good rather than fixating on what is missing. It requires the discipline to say, I have been given much, rather than I have been denied much. And it requires action because gratitude that does not manifest in behavior is empty. If you are grateful for your family, show them. If you are grateful for your opportunities, make use of them. If you are grateful for wisdom, live by it. Ultimately, gratitude is not just a way of thinking, it is a way of being. It is a radical rejection of bitterness, entitlement, and nihilism. It is the conscious choice to see the world not as an enemy, but as a place filled with beauty and possibility. And in making that choice, you do not just change your own life, you contribute to the creation of a better world. The choice is always yours. Will you focus on what you lack or on what you have? Will you live in resentment or in appreciation? One path leads to misery, the other to meaning. Choose wisely.